Confronted by a brown bear much larger than him, Buck displays no fear and even frightens the bear, making it back away in fear. Buck is a mixed-breed dog residing in Santa Clara with his owner, Judge Miller, and his family. His kind and lively nature makes him cherished and pampered by everyone in the town, and his bigger size compared to other dogs makes him even more well-known. On Judge Miller's birthday, Buck trails the housemaid to the market to gather their supplies. While he pursues a cyclist through the streets, a man watches him and intends to kidnap and sell him for a good profit. Back at home, Buck begins his daily task by waking up the girls. But what he typically does is turn the house inside out. When the helpers in the kitchen hear Buck coming, everyone swiftly hides the food in the cupboard, aware their pampered dog is soon here for mischief. Consequently, Buck is removed from the kitchen, not realizing that Judge Miller is already positioned behind him, prepared to take him out of the house. After a while, the lunch table is arranged in the front yard, and the whole family comes together to snap a photo. To everyone's disappointment, Buck arrives at the table before everyone else and spoils the meal. The judge, who has consistently agreed to all of Buck's requests, becomes furious and exits, leaving him outside the house. A wild night unfolds, and the man from the market beckons Buck with a snack and then traps him inside a box. The man gets some cash and sends Buck in a horse cart. Buck barks and attempts to summon his owner inside the house, but it is in vain. After some time, he is placed onto a train and transported far from his hometown. A man opens the box the following day. Buck attempts to escape, but the man begins striking him to the ground with a club, causing him to understand that resisting is not the correct approach in that situation. He settles down next to other dogs in the cages, silently hoping for an opportunity to break free. Yet, when he takes the opportunity later, he discovers he is already in a chilly and distant location, where it is not possible for him to act. They reach Skagway, Alaska, a place of emptiness. It's the initial stop where numerous individuals come together and will step into Yukon, northwest Canada, where tales circulate of large quantities of gold hidden beneath the ground. Numerous adventurers from around the globe gather in Yukon, aiming to seize their treasure. On the trip, large dogs are crucial to pull them through the snowy peaks and transport their bags. It's Buck's initial experience with the snow, and this makes him feel a bit frightened. Will he make it or not? Buck's luck changes when he is purchased by a mail runner named Perot to become part of a dog sled team, transporting mail throughout the Yukon. Buck encounters the other dog in the group, guided by a fierce husky Spitz. However, all dogs appear uninterested in him as Buck attempts to befriend them. Soon after, Buck begins his new adventure. Since he was a pampered dog in his hometown, he struggles to cooperate with his sled team. When Buck spots a rabbit, he tries to catch it and goes his own path, ultimately guiding all dogs, and Perot tumbles onto the snowy ground. His big size and unruliness generate a strong dislike among other dogs, but Perot is unique. He motivates Buck to rise again and carry on. However, the chill soon hits Buck hard. Since he has never experienced such cold weather, he slips into the cozy tent where his boss is, but gets thrown out because dogs are meant to sleep outside. However, Buck is well suited and soon discovers how to rest in the wild like his other companions and better work with the group. When they settle down for the night, each dog receives a fish to consume. However, Spitz, as the leader, sharply takes away one of the weaker dog's food. Seeing that, Buck quietly gives the dog his meal without causing a stir. The following day, as they traverse a frozen lake, everyone is eager for water. Sadly, Spitz's domineering attitude stops any other dogs from having the courage to move while he drinks water. Noticing a requirement, Buck, being the largest dog, swiftly breaks the ice with his strong paws. All dogs are joyful except Spitz, who resents watching Buck take control and be capable. Buck slowly adapts to his new existence in the pack. Performing the tasks of a sled dog gives him assurance and happiness. One day, while his woman boss is cautiously navigating their path on a frozen lake, suddenly the ice cracks and she plunges straight into the perilous icy water. Buck and Perrault dash toward her at full speed, but the girl is already pulled under the water. Buck leaps into the water without a second thought and rescues her from peril. As the girl is rescued, Buck is sinking and drenched under the water because he has exhausted all his energy. Perrault then ventures onto the frozen lake, shouting Buck's name, but he receives no reply. He attempts to start a conversation, but it turns out ineffective. As he grows anxious and believes he has lost his beloved friend, someone hands him a stick to help ease the tension. When Perrault spins around, he breaks down in tears, joyful to see his Buck returning. In the evening, the lady boss informs Buck that Perrault has always been late to transport the mail, yet he never loses hope and thinks he can. Just as he has faith in Buck, she then offers Buck some meat to eat as a reward. Later, when all are resting, Buck finds his beloved pet, a rabbit. Enthusiastically, he begins running after it, making every dog stir and follow his path. He quickly catches the rabbit, but unexpectedly, he doesn't consume it, but lets it go instead. But before the rabbit can get away, the dog leader, Spitz, dashes in front of the pack and bites the rabbit to death, demonstrating who is the leader to follow. Later, Spitz displays his pointed fangs, surrounding Buck, cautioning him to be cautious or he will be ripped apart like the rabbit. Since every dog perceives it as a warning, Spitz abruptly assaults Buck, causing all the dogs to retreat and feel scared. With his mild and submissive character, Buck initially avoids, reluctant to battle his own kind. Yet, as Spitz launches a fierce assault, Buck makes a quick turn, holding his position for himself, and ultimately brings Spitz down. Spitz fails in his struggle and departs from the pack quietly. Perrault searches for Spitz the next day and has no hints about what occurred the night before with his sled team. Buck rises and moves to the front, prepared to take on the role of the new leader, but Perrault believes he is unfit for the position. Although he is large, the man tries to allow another dog with 5 years' experience to take the lead, but the dog panics, as they all understand Buck is now their leader. To avoid wasting time, Perrault hesitantly permits Buck to take the lead. Buck puts on the official leader's leash and prepares. Unexpectedly, each dog responds to his command and dashes at full speed, astonishing Perrault and even other creatures along the path. As Perrault is pleased with Buck's skill, an avalanche occurs from a mountain. Perrault instructs Buck to go left, but as a dog with remarkable smarts, Buck makes an unforeseen and surprising right turn, guiding them into a concealed cave and easing their escape, completely dodging the disaster that could have occurred. For the first time, Perrault brings the mail right on schedule thanks to Buck's help. Everyone in town is thrilled to see them, as their hope for life is brought by the sled team. As time passes, Buck becomes the main leader of the dog sled team, and he takes pleasure in bringing hope to the town's folk. However, shortly, bad news about the telegraph arriving in the town soon makes manual mail delivery pointless, leaving Buck once again forsaken. Buck and his group suddenly feel lost, unsure of where their future will take them next. One day, a conceited man-owl comes to thee and purchases Buck and his team. He wants the dogs to take him to the spot where he thinks the gold is, but his carriage is lost, causing the pack to be unable to move at all. The man then instructs his servant to use a club to strike Buck, which causes him to remember the time he was abused on the train and feel frightened. After noticing this, an elderly man named John approaches and inquires if Buck still recalls him. It appears to be the man Buck met when he was initially taken to Alaska. On that day, Buck found John's harmonica, which he had forgotten on the street. He grabbed it and gave it back to the man. John attempts to prevent the man from taking the dogs, but he tells him to mind his own affairs. The group quickly sets off on their adventure with a new leader. Yet their test turns out to be quite challenging, and all the dogs grow tired. They try to halt because they've sensed the threat ahead. If they persist, everyone could lose their lives. At the same time, John becomes concerned about Buck and his group. When he notices the weather outside about to shift, he swiftly locates the group, trying to prevent Hal from proceeding. Buck ultimately can't handle it anymore and collapses to the ground, slowly losing awareness under Hal's threat to end his life. Yet, Hal continues and brings the remaining group to carry on their journey, leaving Buck by himself with John. Buck is taken back to John's hut and rests for 2 complete days until he awakens once more. When he opens his eyes, Buck sees that John is already intoxicated and asleep. The following day, John informs Buck that he will be away from the house for some time, and Buck can choose whether he wants to remain or go. Noticing something strange about John, Buck trails behind and discovers him in a bar, purchasing drinks once more. Out of nowhere, Hal rushes in and begins to assault John, accusing him of destroying his as all the dogs are gone, and his gold business has collapsed. John is knocked to the ground. Upon witnessing that, Buck intervenes and almost rips Hal apart. Buck is drawn away by the customers, yet he stays fierce. John eventually settles Buck, and the bar owner discovers Hal with a gun, ejecting him from the establishment right away. Later, at the cabin, John once more begins drinking, but Buck grabs it and hides the bottle in the snow. John catches up to reclaim his alcohol, but soon gives in as Buck is too large and heavy to be shifted. For the first time, John shares his concealed secret with Buck. He is in Yukon not to search for gold, but to escape from his life since his son died. Yukon is a location where John's son envisioned visiting to discover when he was still living. Now that they have one another, the two choose to complete the journey that John's son had never begun. John and Buck embarked on their small wooden vessel. When night falls, they start a campfire, and for the first time in a while, Buck is welcomed to sleep in the tent with John without enduring the cold like before. They journey day and night, crossing raging rivers, and eventually reach a beautiful mountain that the fairy tales mention. Buck is excited about their new spot and can't resist checking it out. Eventually, they find a hut where a prospector once resided. John tidies up the hut while Buck is occupied pursuing a squirrel he finds. Later at night, as they get ready to sleep, Buck feels scared when he hears some animals howling outside. John tells him that it's the wolf pack, and they are his forebears. Right now, Buck is unaware of how life will transform for him, since he has never experienced life beyond the human realm. John and Buck begin their fresh journey in the cabin. While enjoying themselves in the water, Buck spots his favorite rabbit and dashes off to pursue it. He follows the rabbit into a dense forest where he meets a brown bear, something he has never encountered and much larger than him before. Buck successfully escapes from the bear, but then encounters a wolf whom he believes is his own kind. He attempts to be nice, but the wolf disregards him and strolls off. Buck gazes down and finds that the wolf's track resembles his own. The following morning, John gets up, but only discovers Buck has already left. It seems Buck has become interested in his wolf pack relatives. He sits on a stone, observing as the wolves encircle the brown bear and begin their assault. Unexpectedly, the pack leader tumbles into the rush when he's ready to initiate his assault. All the wolves begin to panic and chase after, but they seem too scared to budge an inch. Buck hurries to save the wolf leader with his compassionate spirit, gaining the pack's confidence. Since then, he begins joining his wolf pack, slowly revealing his true wild nature. At the same time, John appears to lose his sense of purpose once more, as he observes the journey has brought Buck to his fate, while he remains wandering without direction. Feeling hopeless, John starts to drink once more, but Buck picks up on his distress from a distance and comes back home to be with him. The following morning, John trails Buck to observe how he's faring with his pack and understands it's time for him to cease escaping from life and that he ought to release Buck. Buck says goodbye to John and goes back to his wolf pack, beginning a new life. At the same time, peril draws near as Hal truly trails them right to the hut. He fires at John and makes the house catch fire. Upon hearing the gunshot, Buck hurries back, courageously battles Hal, and tosses him into the flames. Noticing John is badly hurt, he attempts to help him, but it's already too late, so he remains by his side until his final breath. In the end, Buck is always left solitary, distant from the human realm, but fortunately he still has his wolf pack, and they appoint him the new leader. Whenever he descends to the valley in summer, Buck always pauses to recall the gentle hands and his own owners.